Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We will just wait till everyone gets logged in and then we will begin. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our African adventure on this cold, blustery night in Saskatchewan. We'll just wait a couple more seconds here and then we will get started. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I hope everyone can hear me okay. We will get started here. Okay, so welcome. Thank you for joining us on our African adventure. We will be talking about our exciting opportunity tonight to visit Africa this May. Coral's here with me, and she will be telling you all about our exciting journey this May 6th until the 24th. And we will just get in here. So just a quick reminder for everybody. Everyone is on mute for the duration of the presentation to ensure a smooth experience for all. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Please type it into the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. And we welcome any questions throughout the duration of the presentation, and we will address as many as we can during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So for 25 years, Westworld Tours has been proudly serving Canadians from coast to coast, offering escorted tours throughout North America and around the world. Sorry, it looks like I've got my slides mixed up. We're on future presentations. So stay tuned for future presentations. We will be back with our presentation series in the new year, so stay tuned for that. If you would like to receive invites for presentations, as well as timely information on new tours, we recommend you follow us on Facebook, and you can also sign up to receive our e-newsletter. And you can visit westworldtours.com/subscribe to subscribe to our email newsletter. Oh, here we go. I just went a little bit too far. So for 25 years, Westworld Tours has been proudly serving Canadians from coast to coast, offering expertly escorted travel throughout North America and around the world. As we celebrate our 25th anniversary in 2025, we invite you to join us for incredible adventures. Our professional tour directors and skilled drivers ensure every detail is handled, giving you peace of mind to relax and enjoy. Our tour directors love welcoming new guests, reconnecting with familiar faces, and witnessing the friendships that have formed along the way. With incredible value, modern comfort, and strong focus on safety, we provide travel experiences you can trust. And as champions of responsible travel, we plant 2 trees per person on every tour and are working towards becoming single-use plastic-free. So whether you're traveling solo or with friends, Westworld Tours creates a welcoming environment and memories to last a lifetime. Okay, so let's get into Africa. Check a few more countries off your bucket list with this adventure through South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Botswana. Our African tour features urban exploration in the picturesque cities of Johannesburg, Livingstone, and Cape Town. And the South African culture is one of the most ethnically diverse in the world, adding to the ambiance and the wonderful action-packed tour that we have for you. Heading into the countryside, ecological adventures include safaris, game drives, bushwalks, and river cruise safaris, balance the urban and the rural experience. You'll visit Kruger National Park and Chobe National Park, attend a sunset cruise on the Zambezi River, and see one of the 7 natural wonders of the world at Victoria Falls. Don't miss this exciting opportunity to visit Africa. Okay, so here you can see a map of Westworld Tours of Africa, showing the incredible journey that you'll be embarking on. You'll begin by flying into Johannesburg, the vibrant heart of South Africa. From there, we'll travel to the renowned Kruger National Park area, home to incredible wildlife. Next, you'll fly north into Livingstone, where we'll explore both Zimbabwe and Zambia, including the stunning Victoria Falls. And after that, we'll head into Botswana, known for its pristine wilderness and unique safari experiences. Finally, make your way back down to Cape Town, where you'll spend the last few days soaking in its beauty and culture, and visiting wineries and all the different attractions that we have there for you. And so now I'm thrilled to introduce Coral Romanchuk, your expert guide for this adventure to Africa. Coral has been with Westworld for 24 years next year, I believe, right, Coral?
Yeah, coming up, getting close to 25.
Perfect. And she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience as our senior tour director. Coral's traveled the globe extensively, having stepped foot on all 7 continents. And Coral traveled with our group in 2023 to Africa, and she's really excited to share all about our exciting adventure with you all tonight. And Coral, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thanks, Leanne. I appreciate the intro as well. And everyone, it's really nice to have you joining us tonight. So thank you for being here with us. And it is my pleasure to be chatting with you tonight. Leanne, right, this tour was really incredible when we did it last in 2023. And I am super excited to be telling you all about it and would really love to be sharing this tour with you in May of 2025. So I'm going to talk about some fun facts and we're going to talk about the slides that we're going through this evening. But there's something else I want to speak to tonight as well. I know that for many people, going to Africa is a bucket list trip, just seeing the wild animals and just so many different things. I'm going to speak a little bit this evening just to the idea of the sensory experience of Africa. And that's something I'm going to touch on throughout our time together every night, this evening rather. So it all starts out in the city of Johannesburg. So we do have 4 countries that we're going to be visiting: South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana, and then finishing back up in South Africa again. But it starts in the city of Johannesburg. Now, also, I just want to let you know as we begin our presentation, everyone, that I have several tips about the tour that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to save those for the end. So I just want to let you know that now, in case you want to have a pen and paper handy. And I'm going to say 10 good tips about this trip for you for the last few minutes of our time together. Johannesburg is the largest city in South Africa, 6.3 million people by population. And what you're looking at in this screen is Nelson Mandela Square in Johannesburg. Nelson Mandela was such a heroic figure, and so the square just commemorates who he was as a person. I have to say, on a personal note, I just finished the book Long Walk to Freedom, which was Nelson Mandela's own story. So I feel a little closer connection to this now than I did when I was actually there last. But he spent 27 years in prison and was released in 1990 and served as president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. And the square pays homage, excuse me, to Nelson Mandela. And there's quotes of his all over the square. So just such a heroic figure. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see a shot in Soweto. Soweto stands for Southwestern Townships, and it's a part of the city of Johannesburg. 98.5% Black African that live in Soweto, and we're going to learn a lot about apartheid and the history of that while we're in Johannesburg, and a lot of that is pretty disturbing stuff. So they actually moved the blacks out of Johannesburg and into Soweto, even going so far as to create what they called a cemetery corridor, where they would be separated from white people by by either a highway or something of that nature. So that's how Soweto was first developed. So we're going to learn a lot of history. A lot of it's some pretty hard history that we'll learn during our time in Johannesburg, but it's pretty interesting as well. Thanks, Leanne. And as part of that, we're going to have a local guide that will be with us during our stay in Johannesburg. It's going to show us some of the sites around the city, including the Constitutional Court. That's what you're looking at over on the left-hand side of the screen. And over on the right-hand side, you're also seeing the stairwell as well with the flame of democracy in front of it. So that's on the bottom hand part of your screen. The flame of democracy was actually lit by Nelson Mandela, and the Constitutional Court was only inaugurated back in 1994, and it was constructed with bricks from the prison that originally sat on the site there. So where most of the prison was destroyed, the stairwells were actually saved. Just as a reminder of Constitution's transformative aspirations. So that's why that's still there today. But it does represent the supreme law of the land and enforcing the basic rights and freedoms of all persons. I don't know if you can see this, but if you look in the top left-hand corner behind our local guide who's actually speaking to us there's actually narrow windows up above his head. And those windows look out onto the street. So if you're sitting in the Constitutional Court, you can just see the feet of people who are passing by on the street outside. And that basically served the purpose when the Constitutional Court was built of reminding people of who they were representing and the common man walking by on the street outside. So I thought that was kind of an interesting fact about the Constitutional Court. So thanks, Leanne. And then talking about the history here being difficult, it is really interesting, but I guess all you can really do in history is remember people's stories and remember what happened. So a big part of our stay in Johannesburg is going to be visiting the Apartheid Museum, and that's what you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. It opened back in 2001, and it features film footage and stories, different press and artifacts on the Black Africans and their journey towards liberation. But talking about the whole sensory aspect, it even is true right here in Johannesburg. You're looking there and you see that there's a doorway for blacks and a doorway for whites, and just the separation that happened under the apartheid regime. So we'll learn a lot here too about Nelson Mandela's story and his quest for freedom. And also on that past screen too, you could see the Hector Peterson Memorial. He was a 12-year-old schoolboy that was actually shot and killed back in 1976 when police opened fire on Black students during a protest. So that's the Hector Peterson Memorial in the bottom right-hand corner. Thanks, Leanne. And also as part of the tour in Johannesburg, we will be visiting the Nelson Mandela House. And this is where he lived between 1946 and 1962. This is on Vilkasi Street in Johannesburg. Interesting thing about Vilkasi Street is that there were two different Nobel Prize winners that actually lived on this street, not at the same time, but the other one was Desmond Tutu. And one of Nelson Mandela's quotes, "Never give up on the belief in freedom." So many great quotes by him, but we'll have a chance to visit that as part of our stay. Perfect. Thank you. And then we get out of the city. We leave Johannesburg behind and make our way out into the countryside. And this is really one of the things that you're going to Africa for, which is seeing this area, these game reserves outside of the city, Kruger National Park area. These shots here showing you the game reserve that we stayed at in 2023, and I believe the one that we're at in 2025 is very similar to this one, but it gives you just a really nice idea of what they look like, really classy and really lovely as well. But it really is all about coming to see the animals. And when I get to my 10 tips at the end of our time together tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about safety traveling in Africa. The interesting thing about it, though, there's definitely an element to consider where safety is concerned. When we're out, even in these game reserves, and considering that they are fenced in, there's still an element of danger from animals in the area, and they really do our best as staff to protect us. An interesting experience I had when I was there last was one of my guests had a university class that she couldn't miss, and with the difference in timing between Canada and South Africa, her class lasted from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And so even though we were inside a fenced compound, she still had a staff member come to the room to escort her to the main building so that she could pick up Wi-Fi to use for her class. So interesting thing too, you see some of our guests on our previous trip sitting in that rover with the tracker just sitting at the front of the rover. What they tell us is that they do not ever want anyone to stand up inside the rover when you're out on safari. Reason being, you can be seen basically as a target by an animal out there, by a leopard or a lion perhaps. But as long as we're all sitting down in the rover, then we're kind of just like one big unit altogether. So that's one thing that you'll learn traveling in Africa. It's really important that everyone has to stay seated. So we do have opportunities to get out, but when we're driving along looking for animals, everyone is actually seated the whole time. And there's nothing quite like the first experience of seeing your very first animal in Africa. It is a really mind-blowing experience, even when it's something as simple as an impala. So you're seeing an impala in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and you'll see so many of those. After a while, you're like, oh, it's just another impala. But the first one's pretty exciting. And so many different animals that we can see. And I have a whole list of all the different animals that maybe I'll share with you towards the end of our presentation, some of the things we can see. But white rhino is definitely one. And as I say, it's just a mind-blowing experience when you're looking at your first rhino. Thanks, Leanne. Mornings do start early and they end with lovely meals. So again, just beautiful ambiance, really classy. Sometimes nights like this, we'd be sitting outside just having a beautiful dinner at the end of the day. But the days do start pretty early. So we're generally up by about 5 or 5:30. Someone will come and knock on the door. We'll have a little bit of a light breakfast before we head out on our first adventure of the day. And these experiences going out in the rovers to look for animals usually last about 3 hours or so, but naturally it's all about when the animals are going to be out. So first thing in the morning, we usually leave by around 6:30 or so, and then another late afternoon trip. So again, roughly about 3 hours long, and then back for a lovely dinner back at the game lodge. Leanne. Wonderful. So again, just showing you some of the animals that you could see and probably will see. My experience being there in 2023 was it didn't take us very long at all to see the Big Five, and in fact, we saw the Big Five twice over at our first game lodge. So yeah, we did see the Cape Buffalo, the leopard as well. You can see some very excited Westworld passengers that were on the trip with me in the bottom left-hand corner. Elephants Oh my goodness, I took so many pictures of elephants. It became a bit of a joke on our group last year how many pictures of elephants alone we took. There's just something so beautiful and so mesmerizing about these animals. So just be prepared to take lots of pictures. And remember, it's incredible. They might be an amazingly large animal, but they're really, really quiet. And it's incredible how well camouflaged they are. You wouldn't think so for an animal so big, but it's also just remarkable how close we're able to get to the animals. Plan. And again, on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see our group, everybody big smiles on their faces. So can't stress it enough. This really is a bucket list trip for a lot of people. So if you're even thinking, is it worth it to spend that kind of money to go to Africa? I just want to tell you, my opinion is yes, it definitely is worth the money for sure. Top left-hand corner of the screen, you can see just a little snacks all laid out for us in the late afternoon. It's really lovely. So it is a 3-hour adventure in the morning and again in the late afternoon while we're on these game reserves. In the morning, at one point, you'll have a chance to get out, stretch your legs, have a coffee and a muffin. And then in the late afternoon, when we go out for the late day adventure, it's really quite lovely. They'll bring along just light snacks for us at some point. We'll stop and have a little break, stretch our legs. They'll even bring things like wine or beer or non-alcoholic beverages for you as well. So just a lovely experience. And then eventually back to our game lodge for a late meal at the end of the day. So yeah, this is again just at our lodge in South Africa out there on the game reserve. Just standing with some of our group and myself on the right hand side too with our rangers and trackers. The one ranger there on the left hand side, I'm not exactly sure what he's doing, just a silly shot there, I guess. But yeah, you really learn to trust these guys. They're a lot of fun, but they're incredibly knowledgeable as well too, and you trust them. I mean, you trust them with your safety, but you trust them with having a really good sense of where the animals are and knowing what to look for and just having a really good intuition about that. So every rover has both a ranger and a tracker on board that'll be looking for animals, sharing lots of information with you throughout the drives and and just having that whole experience with you. Interesting thing too, whatever rover you are on will be the same rover that you'll be on every day when you go out at that particular game reserve. So in the morning and in the evening, and then you'll have not only the same rover, but you'll have the same tracker and ranger, and then that way they know exactly what you have seen every day and every time, what they're still looking for, trying to find for you. So it's a pretty magical experience. It really is. Thanks, Leanne. Awesome. And then we move on from this point in our tour. I know when I'm traveling, one of the things I really love is a good drive. Sometimes we have to fly places just to get from one point to another, but sometimes a drive can be really lovely. And so the drive to Hazy View is just really spectacular. And we have some fantastic stops along the way. There's actually 3 beautiful sightseeing stops that we're going to make. Again, these are some of my guests that were on the tour last year with big smiles on their faces, enjoying the day. And what you're looking at there is called the 3 Rondavels. There's 3 mountain peaks behind the ladies there, and they're kind of round looking. Well, the word Rondavel means round shelter, and they look similar to traditional beehive huts in Africa, and that's why they were named the 3 Rondavels. But really beautiful spots. So that's one of our beautiful sightseeing stops that we'll make on the drive. And then the second one is Bork's Luck Potholes. And it's a geological attraction in South Africa formed by water and erosion. You can probably see that pretty clearly in the picture there that that's what it is. So yeah, just take note of the landscape. And when we get to my 10 tips at the end, I'll bring this up again, but you can see people walking out there amongst those rocks. There's different walkways and bridges to walk over, or then maybe you'll just want to take some time to wander and shop and sightsee. So that's another one of our stops that day. And then the third is aptly named God's Window. So this is one of the ladies from my group just posing with our local guide. His name is Daryl, and I can't say enough about how fantastic the local guides are during our tour, and our tour operators and providers as well. I was really, really impressed with them, right down to little details. Like just as an example for you, Daryl, before we did ways with him and flew off to another part of our tour, kindly made a list for all of my group for just ideas of suggested reading, books to read on Africa, even movies and documentaries that would be good for us to watch. And I've taken him up on that. I've actually read probably 2 or 3 of the books now, including Long Walk to Freedom, and watched 1 or 2 of the movies and documentaries as well. So that kind of thing is much appreciated. But this is again just another stunning stop on our day called God's Window. And that takes us to Hazy View. So this is another one of the beautiful lodges that we stay at. So it also just gives you a really good idea of what these lodges look like in Africa. So really, really beautiful. Great, thank you. And then moving on, we do have some internal flights during the trip, rather. So not only does your trip include the flights to and from, but it also includes the internal flights that we'll be taking around as well too. So we will be flying because we need to arrive in our next country. So again, we have 4 countries that we'll be visiting on the trip. And this takes us to Livingstone. So we will be spending time in Zambia and also in Zimbabwe as well too. But Zambia takes its name from the Zambezi River, and of course, something else we'll talk about real soon is the iconic feature on the Zambezi River, which is Victoria Falls. But one of the things that Zambia is famous for is for the fact that it has all of the big 5. So the animals in Africa that are known as the big 5. This is a really beautiful lodge, and yeah, you can see a nice picture of the Livingstone Lodge, the David Livingstone Lodge, rather, excuse me, up in the right-hand corner of the screen. Do you see on the bottom picture on the left-hand side of your screen, you see the mosquito netting above the bed? You might have noticed that earlier already in another slide, but in any case, that mosquito netting will serve you well. It might look pretty, but it's also practical as well, too. So you're probably going to want to put that mosquito netting down over your bed at night. I don't know how the bugs get in, but somehow they just do. So the mosquito netting will serve you well. At this lodge, we did have a lot of baboons around. So another reason why you want to be really, really careful about leaving your French doors open. They're cheeky little guys. They really are. And it doesn't take much for a baboon to sneak into your room and take your possessions. But while we're on this slide too, one more thing that I just want to comment on is something that I really love about Westworld's Africa tour is I really feel like we have a nice mix of busy time and time when we're not busy. And I don't know how it happens, but it just works out that the itinerary is a really lovely balance of time when we're sightseeing and time that we're not. So just as an example, at David Livingstone Lodge, time to hang out by the pool, enjoy that sunset over the Zambezi River. I took that sunset picture in the center of the screen from my open French door. So the Zambezi River was right outside, and you see those ladies from our group in the top left-hand corner receiving hand massages. So that was just a courtesy at this hotel that for a small gratuity they were doing hand massages in the lobby. So. And just a chance, as I say, to sit poolside on a beautiful afternoon and just relax and enjoy being in Africa as well. So it's pretty spectacular. Thanks, Leanne. All right. Well, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, that would be David Livingstone, I presume. David Livingstone lived from 1813 to 1873. And of course, Livingstone is named for the great David Livingstone. He actually took on kind of a mythical status, but he was a lot of things. He was a popular British hero that was born in Scotland. And during his lifetime, he would become known as an explorer, also a Protestant missionary martyr. He was a scientific investigator as well as an anti-slavery crusader as well too. So the city is named for him. Unfortunately, David Livingstone died relatively young. He was only 60 when he died of dysentery and malaria. But the city is named in his honor, and we'll have a chance to really see the city and experience it. We'll have not long, but sufficient. Probably about a 1.25 to 1.5 hour guided tour of the city before we say goodbye to Livingstone. Thanks, Leanne. All right, and another, I would even venture. There's so many highlights on this trip. It's actually really hard to say, one thing is a highlight over another. But the Zambezi Sunset River cruise is pretty spectacular. I think that actually is my photo in the lower left-hand corner. In fact, I think they might all be my photos on this screen here. But just shows you how spectacular it is. Again, some of our guests just enjoying the river cruise on the Zambezi. And of course, the animals we're seeing on the shore, but also in the water as well. Honestly, I think when we were at our first game lodge, one of the concerns I had was, we've seen all these amazing animals already early on in the trip. It's incredible. But gosh, I just didn't feel like we were seeing hippos that well. And hippos, some of you may know this, but if you don't, hippos are considered to be the #1 most dangerous animal in Africa. But holy smokes, did we ever see them when we got on the Zambezi River? And I didn't know it then, but we would see lots more later on as well. But that is my photo with the hippo with its mouth open in the middle of the river on the right-hand side of the screen there. So we definitely got very, I mean, I'd say up close and personal, but only as up close and personal as you can safely get hippos. But we saw plenty of them in the Zambezi River. Thanks, Leanne. Okay, what you're looking at, everyone, now is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, and it is that for a good reason. This is Victoria Falls that you're looking at, and as I was saying, this is an iconic feature of the Zambezi River. This will live up to everything that you ever thought Victoria Falls would be. How I felt about it. When I go somewhere that is either a natural wonder of the world or a man-made wonder of the world, I always can't wait to just experience what it's going to be like. And this is definitely something that will live up to your expectations. Talk about a sensory experience and talk about mind-blowing. It's easy to use the word mind-blowing when describing a trip to Africa, but it's really true. So it's 1.7 miles wide, which makes it the largest waterfall in the world. And it is the largest waterfall in the world based on the sheet of falling water. So we're not talking height, we're based on the actual sheet of falling water. That's why it is the largest waterfall in the world. You can see 2 different countries from Victoria Falls, both Zambia and Zimbabwe as well too. But it's said that every minute 500 million liters of water cascade over the lip of Victoria Falls. So I can't say enough about it. But I do want to mention as well too that we are provided with good sturdy rain jackets while we're there. I'm actually carrying my rain jacket over my arm at this point on the trip and on the left-hand side of the screen. But I assure you, shortly after that picture was taken, I put my rain jacket on. But we actually have a little guided tour where we are walked along the edge of Victoria Falls and make probably 10 or 11, something like that, had good stops where we could just stop and ooh and ah and take pictures and just enjoy it. So you do your best to not get wet, but believe me, even with that rain jacket on, it's pretty challenging. But it is absolutely remarkable, and it is unquestionably one of the seven wonders of the world for a very good reason. Thanks, Leanne. And then while we are at Victoria Falls, we're actually going to have some time just to enjoy here too and just do some stuff on our own if we want to. This is another place where if you want to, maybe you want to just sit by the swimming pool in the afternoon. Maybe you want to shop and go to the markets. That's a lot of fun. Also, maybe you want to just wander and sightsee, or maybe you want to do something a little extra special. I could hardly believe it when I was there last that I had a couple of Westworld passengers that opted to go bungee jumping when we were at Victoria Falls, but they did. And several of us, myself included, did a helicopter ride. You could opt for a 13-minute, which is what I did, or a 22-minute helicopter tour as well. I've been told by one of my good friends before I went that this was something that was money very well spent. And now that I've done it, I have to tell you, I agree 100%. This was worth the money I spent to do a 13-minute helicopter ride over Victoria Falls. But lots of things that we can do while we're there. And actually, since I don't have this in the presentation later, I might as well just mention right now too, there is lots of really good shopping to do while we're in Africa. I did mention shopping at Victoria Falls and shopping in the market. I don't know if you can see my show and tell item, but I did bring a show and tell item for the presentation tonight. One of my favorite things I bought on the tour were my placemats, which I use. I've got 6 of them with different African animals on each one. So that was my favorite things I bought. Another really special thing that happened, and actually this did happen at Victoria Falls. We had a local person that ran a business creating T-shirts of people's personal trips to Africa, and several of us opted to buy them. So they, got the information what we wanted, and then came back the next day, and we paid for them. But if you can see my shirt, I've got my Africa shirt on tonight, which has on the sleeve the 4 countries that we visited. So this was personalized for our trip. And then on the other sleeve, it has the big 5 and either the paw prints or the hoof prints of the big 5. And on the back, a map of Africa. I actually saw a second place on the trip too, where that was offered. So that was a really fun thing to buy. So you can buy things from like crafts and woodworks and that kind of thing. But you also find some really fun souvenirs like this to buy as well. So there's lots of really good shopping opportunities on this trip for those of you who want to take some really, really cool or really special souvenirs home from your trip to Africa. Thanks, Leanne. Next slide here. Another fun thing about traveling, especially when you're traveling, in international destinations, is going to some kind of traditional dinner. This is called the Boma dinner, and that's exactly what this experience was. Kind of again gives you this very sensory feeling of being in Africa, just getting to experience some of the music and the culture. This is very much what I would call an interactive experience show. It's very entertaining, but you see the folks on their drums up there in the right hand corner of the screen. Well, when I say it was an interactive experience, besides just watching the dancers and the drumming, at our tables, there's big long tables, there's lots of people at the Boma dinner. They have little mini drums set up in front of our places at the table, and that way you could actually practice. You could drum along with them, and they really encouraged you to do that, just to drum along with the show, which was a lot of fun. And something I'm a big believer in when I travel is I love experiencing cultures through their food and drink. And of course, it is it's fun, I think, for a lot of us just to try local cuisine when we travel. And the Boma dinner was a really good place to do that. Eating things like the impala that I talked about earlier, kudu as well too. So you get some local game plus like the big roast pig and beautiful salads and really just a lovely meal and a lovely experience. So that's the Boma dinner. Thanks, Leanne. And then from the BOMA dinner, so we have now visited 3 countries at this point. On our trip, or sorry, excuse me, pardon me, we've I just got a little bit out of order there, forgive me. Botswana I wanted to mention as well too. So Botswana is where we will be visiting our last game reserve. But we have visited South Africa now, as I mentioned, Zambia and Zimbabwe as well. And then we're going to be spending some time in Botswana. So I'll talk a little bit about Chobe National Park here in just a moment, but always nice to include a few fun facts as well. So this is our 4th country that we are visiting. So Botswana. Um, so here's a couple interesting things for you about Botswana. It has the largest concentration of elephants in the world, but it has the smallest border between countries. So known for its elephants, but at the smallest border, it's only 150 meters long, and that's the border between Botswana and Zambia. Um, Maybe since we have a moment, everyone, just a couple things that I'd like to say about animals in Africa. You get really close to animals, you do. So you see that picture of that male lion in the center of the screen. It is incredible to be sitting in these rovers and being so up close and personal to these animals. So I just can't, I can't exaggerate enough, what a sensory experience this is. My group, when we were there last year, we never actually watched a kill happen, which for some people, they were very happy about that. There were others in the group that had wished that we would see a kill happen. We certainly did see lots of, how shall I say, aftermath of the kill. For example, lions enjoying their dinners. So yeah, that was something that we got to see. We got to see a pride of lions literally walk right past our Range Rovers. Of course, at this point, everyone is just dead silent for the rangers and the trackers. They just really want all the guests on board to be completely silent. But I will tell you, talking about sensory experiences, it made the hair stand up on my arms just watching about 8 lions walk right past our rovers. So just really, really incredible experiences with the wildlife. Thanks, Leanne. And Chobe National Park, so much that we're going to see here. That's a termite mound in the top right-hand corner of the screen. On the lower left-hand screen, you can see the path left behind by a snake, the beautiful dark sky up on the top left-hand corner, a very tenacious ranger on the lower right-hand corner holding elephant dung and explaining to us the benefits and uses of elephant dung, which who knew there are several, and a beautiful little baby elephant in the center of the screen. We saw so many elephants, and you just can't stop taking pictures of them. They are so beautiful, and we got so close to elephants. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I remember sitting in a rover next to some of my Westworld guests, and we were discussing how long their eyelashes were. So it's remarkable how close you can get to some of the animals. One of the things I really liked about being in Chobe National Park was our days included not just rover trips on the land, but they also included trips on the water as well. We got to spend some time on the river. And again, we had fantastic experiences with hippos here. We also had more fantastic experiences with elephants. Another one of my really memorable animal experiences was watching a whole family, I guess, of elephants, just one after another, like a parade, all coming out of the water together. So just to list at this point now, a few of the animals that we saw in 2023. So I fully expect that we will see again in 2025, just to give you a bit of an idea. African buffalo, Cape buffalo, hippo, elephant, giraffe, honey badger, baboon, warthog, impala, lion, kudu, steenbok, yeah, zebras, cheetah, jackal, mongoose, monkeys. It just goes on and on. That's just part of my list. For those of you who are bird lovers as well, again, I have a list of birds that we saw: kingfishers, black-smith lapwing, beautiful lilac-breasted rollers, red-billed furspall, sacred ibis, African darter, guinea fowl, Egyptian goose, fish eagle, just to name a few. So many different birds and different animals that you can see. So as I say, I really feel that this trip will live up to your expectations. So yeah, on this shot here that Leanne has, as you can see, a kudu over on the left-hand side of the screen. Again, some more of the animals on the top right-hand corner of your screen. That's actually a really beautiful example of what I was saying about how close the animals get and how you're sometimes going, oh my goodness, I can see the eyelashes of that elephant right there. So yeah, pretty incredible wildlife experiences. Thanks, Leanne. Well, finally, we do have to say goodbye to the game reserves and make our way back to the city. And this is another city. This is Cape Town that you're looking at. So it all began in South Africa, and the tour will end in South Africa after our time visiting Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Botswana. We will make our way back to South Africa. And in Cape Town, what you're seeing there on the top right-hand corner of your screen, this is called the Bo-Kaap neighborhood. Bo-Kaap means above the Cape. So it's the Bo-Kaap neighborhood with Table Mountain in the background. And this is really the iconic landmark or iconic feature of Cape Town is the Table Mountain, excuse me. We will be taking a gondola ride up to the top. We have to be a bit flexible with our time in Cape Town, which is easy enough to do. Our local guides know what they're doing. They're very good at this. And the reason I say that, sometimes the mountain is concealed by fog and by cloud. And when it's concealed, they say that that Table Mountain is wearing its tablecloth. So we waited for the opportunity to have a somewhat at least clear view from the top of Table Mountain. That's on a very, very clear day, but we will have a gondola ride to the top, and we'll make some other stops, including the market in Cape Town. By the way, Cape Town is the second largest city by population in South Africa, with a population of 4.9 million people. Thanks, Leanne. All right. Well, we're getting towards the end here, everyone, but we're not quite finished yet. From Cape Town, we're going to have some more spectacular touring as well, some really interesting things that we're going to see and do. Absolutely gorgeous countryside. For those of you who are wine lovers, we're going to be doing a winelands tour. As I was saying, one of the joys of traveling is experiencing countries through their food and drink, and South Africa is known for its beautiful wines. So we'll be visiting a few different wineries. I just found it, as a wine lover, to be really impressive, really beautiful, and really lovely wines as well too, and lovely pairings. One of the wineries that we went to featured pairings with cheeses and wines, which is always lovely. Another one featured pairings with chocolates and wines as well too. So, and even if you're not a wine drinker, you're still going to love it. It's still going to be an absolutely beautiful day and beautiful drive through the winelands in South Africa. Another of the sites that we'll be seeing, places that we'll be driving out to visit, the Cape of Good Hope. Yeah, we'll visit the Cape of Good Hope. You can see the sign there in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And also, we will be having the opportunity to visit Boulders Beach. A lot of places in the world besides Antarctica actually that have penguins, and one of those places is South Africa. So these guys are known as the Boulder Beach penguins. At one time, their populations were in decline, but thanks to conservation efforts, their numbers actually have increased again. They were threatened at one time. They also had a different name at one one time. They were at one time called jackass penguins because of the braying sound that they make, but now it's just a much, yes, just a less abrasive name, I suppose you could say, and that is Boulder Beach penguins. But they're very, very fun to watch. So we'll have a chance to see the Boulder Beach penguins as part of our day. Um, Again, a heavier experience, but extremely, extremely interesting. We'll be taking the ferry over to Robben Island, and this is actually where Nelson Mandela spent a good part of his, several years, I should say, of his time in prison. He was actually at Robben Island, but back in 1999, it was actually declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So that's what it is today, and so we will have a tour once we're at Robben Island. Now, the interesting thing about the tour at Robben Island is the guides are former political prisoners. So you're actually going to get a bit of a perspective on, their experience at being at Robben Island. I found that to be pretty extraordinary as well. Actually, listening to a political prisoner talk to us and tell personal stories. See the cell, even where Nelson Mandela spent much of his time there as well. So pretty fascinating, but that's Robben Island. And then we will be having a farewell dinner as well. And again, at the farewell dinner, excuse me, you'll have a chance to experience some local cuisine. And again, at the farewell dinner, you'll have little drums on your table. So if you do want to just to kind of be a part of the show and just make it an interactive experience, I must say, I really enjoyed that myself. So we'll have a chance to drum along with the show, and just it's a lovely evening, and fantastic food as well too. I do want to finish up our time now with 10 tips that I want to share with you, everyone. And so, as promised, if you do have a pen handy, I thought this might be a nice way to do this tonight. Would be just to share 10 tips all at once at the same time. That way, if you've got a pen, and who knows, maybe even this will answer some of the questions that some of you might have tonight. One is safety. Well, certainly there's a concern of safety with animals, which our rangers and trackers and game lodge staff are there to take care of us and make sure that we're kept safe when we're out in the countryside. And of course, places like Johannesburg in particular do have a reputation for, issues with not being safe. I didn't have any issues there at all, and neither did any of my guests. But there are certain rules that you really need to adhere to. And the most important thing is, keep your wits about you, and do not ever be walking by yourself. You're not ever going to leave your hotel alone, even if you're with at least one other person from our group, or the more the merrier, as they say. It's wise to always walk with other people, and not to travel alone, and certainly not after dark as well. Really, really keep your wits about you, where your credit cards, where your cell phone is, all those things. You're going to want to have a money belt, or something of that nature, just to be very cautious when it comes to safety. That being said, however, I can't stress enough how many lovely, lovely, warm people I met in Africa. Just so many, probably some of the warmest, loveliest countries I've ever traveled in, and I've traveled a lot. So yes, there's an issue with safety, but you're also going to meet so many warm, lovely people. You really are. The second of my tips is have lots of space on your photo device. And in fact, if you can, I would even go so far as to recommend taking a second photo device along as well. I've seen it happen on tours where someone had, some kind of device failure with a camera or a phone, and that can just be so heartbreaking when that happens. And you're trying to get somewhere to get it fixed or figure out what to do. Taking a second photo device is not a bad idea, but at the very least, make sure every day you're all charged up, lots of battery, and that you have tons of space on your chip or your card. Because I'm not kidding when I tell you, you, probably most of us on our last trip took about 500 pictures just of elephants, not to mention the other animals or anything else. So be prepared for that. Clothes to bring on the tour. You might be wondering about that. And you may have noticed in some of the pictures tonight at the game reserves that we were wearing our khaki colors, tans, natural colors. And when you are out on those game drives, then yes, that's absolutely what you want to wear. They want you in those khaki and tan natural colors. But don't be afraid to take some brightly colored clothes or take a black top along, because you can wear those to dinner at the end of the day. Maybe something that's a little dressier. Maybe you will want that when you go to the BOMA dinner, or just for one of those pretty dinners at the game reserve when you're sitting, outside under candlelight. So, don't be scared to take a couple dressy things along, or take a couple things that are bright colored as well too. That's one thing that I wish I would have realized, and I didn't. I took almost all khaki colored, tan colored clothes with me because I knew that's what we were supposed to do. And also, don't forget, this is really important, take a couple of sweaters, a sweater or a fleece, one or two of those for sure, because even though they have warm, cozy blankets on the rovers when you're out there at 6:30 in the morning, it can be a bit cool. Gloves, not really. That's not really necessary, but a sweater, that's going to serve you well first thing in the morning for sure. And also, footwear too. Hikers, running shoes, sports sandals, things like that. There's just not going to be any call for any dressy wear. Take some good flip-flops or just sandals for walking around in the cities, but good footwear is going to be really helpful to you on this tour as well. My that was tip number 4, the footwear. Moving on to tip number 5 is binoculars. I would actually call this a must. I consider it a must. So this is another thing you're going to want to bring is binoculars are going to serve you well on those game reserves as well too. Do you remember I said I would mention something regarding Bork's Luck potholes, where we saw the erosion with the water amongst the rocks? Uh, a walking pole. A walking pole is not a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a must, but it could serve you well. And if you're thinking, I'm a pretty good walker, but oh, I don't know about my hip or my knee, that kind of thing, I would consider if you can bring, you don't even need two, but even one, a lightweight fold up walking pole is not a bad idea. Next on my list, sunscreen. That's going to be a definite yes. Make sure you're bringing sunscreen along. Tip number 8, laundry packets for hand washing in the sink. I found I did that quite a lot on this trip. I think you probably will find a few places during our tour that will have laundry facilities, maybe in the city. But, we put in some long days when we're in the game reserves. I remember there especially doing hand washing in the sink at night. So something to consider. Maybe waiting to try and find some laundry facilities at the properties that we're staying at. But those laundry packets for sink washing can be pretty handy. Number 9, my tip number 9 is what I would call a must. And this is something I learned on our last trip with Westworld to Africa. I highly recommend a small travel size flashlight. Something I did not fully understand was the idea of blackouts in Africa. And that can happen and likely will happen at some point. I know it happened at one of our game lodges where the main lodge had generators, so there were plenty of lights there. That was fine. But walking back to our rooms in the dark after was tricky, to say the very least. And so make sure you take a small travel size flashlight with you and just have that in your bag or your pouch or whatever, so it's on your person. I recommend that highly. And then my final tip is spending methods. You might be wondering about that. Credit cards are going to be readily accepted, I would say, everywhere we go. US currency is actually going to serve you well. Pretty well every place we go, US currency is going to work for you just fine. Canadian, no, but US currency is going to work really well. And if you're going to take out any local currency, I would take out a bit of Rand, R-A-N-D, South African Rand. So you could take a bit of Rand along with you as well, just for making small purchases, postcards, coffee, that kind of thing wouldn't hurt as well. So those are my 10 tips. Thanks, Leanne. And yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Thanks, Coral.
Okay.
That was
And then, yeah, I'll just, before I turn things back over to you, I'll just finish up with one final quote, everyone. Again, it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And thank you so much for your time and attention. And I started out near the beginning talking about Nelson Mandela. And I just want to end with another quote by Nelson Mandela. What I really wanted to do was read to you about 2 pages from the last chapter of Long Walk to Freedom. But since I knew I wouldn't have time to do that, I just wrote down one little quote, which says, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. So thanks, everyone. Pleasure to be with you here this evening. And I'll turn it back over to Leanne at this point.
perfect. Thank you, Coral. That was a really great presentation, and I am ready to go anytime here to South Africa and all the other countries that you guys visit. So just a quick, as Coral mentioned in her tips, that is what makes, I guess, Westworld stand out. So we ensure, or we believe in ensuring that you are fully prepared for your adventure. So some of the things that our tour directors do ahead of all of our tours is the pre-tour phone call. So your tour director will personally call you and connect with you to answer any questions and ensure that you're ready for our journey ahead. So kind of like what Coral did just now, providing those must take or suggestions. They can also provide you with jet lag tips on how to minimize jet lag with the huge time differences traveling over to Africa. Different packing tips, currency guidance, local culture and customs, making sure you're well versed in the local customs and etiquette and respectful and immersive experience so you can enjoy your time there, answering your questions, and of course, just getting to know your guide and tour director before you go so you're comfortable and confident and ready to start your adventure with them. Okay. So after that wonderful presentation, we hope that you can join us on our African adventure May 6th to the 24th, 2025. And as Coral mentioned, this exciting journey includes all of your entrance fees, your activities, attractions listed in the itinerary, along with all your hotel accommodations, your transportation throughout Africa, many meals, and your internal flights. Plus, this is a small group, which means a more personalized experience, which is really great. So don't miss out on this opportunity to visit Africa next year. And we have a special virtual presentation promo. If you book by next Friday, which is Friday, December 13th, you can save $150 per person off the tour by using promo code Africa 2025. And you can book with your travel agent and give them the promo code Africa 2025 and save $150 off of the tour. So I guess just a big thank you for joining us this evening on this exciting preview of our African tour. We hope you're as excited about this adventure as we are. And now we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions about the tour, the itinerary, or anything else, please feel free to ask in the chat or the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And we'll be happy to answer any of your questions and provide you with any additional information that you need to make your decision to join us. So we will have a quick look here and see what we've got in the chat. Okay, so we have a question from Gloria. Are there any bathroom breaks while you're out on the safari?
Do you want me to go ahead and take that, Leanne?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Yes, there are, but there are no outhouses out there. So when we do get off the rover, which, as I was saying, will happen at some point on every rover trip, when we have our break for coffee and muffins or for snacks and beverages in the afternoon, whichever it is, there will be trees you can go and go behind. So it's not going to be anything elaborate. There won't be any pit toilets per se out there. And I highly recommend taking a friend with you or somebody that can kind of serve as watch for animals. But yeah, if you have to, you can kind of sneak around behind a tree.
Perfect. And Gloria also asks, are the uncooked vegetables and salads safe to eat? I know you mentioned there is some really nice salads and fruits and vegetables. Is that safe to eat?
I never had any issues at all when we were, just as an example, when we were on the game drives, we were never offered anything to eat. For example, like just fruit off a tree was never given to us and said, hey, you can try this if you want to, which I think was probably wise. But as far as fruits and vegetables that we ate at, the restaurants and the included meals or the Boma dinner places like that, I had no issues at all. So yeah, I think as far as that goes, that's safe. But I definitely wouldn't be, eating something off a tree as an example.
Perfect. Okay, Lorraine asks, do you require any vaccines to enter any of the countries?
You want
And
to take that one, Leanne?
I can take that one. So at this time, there are no vaccines required. I don't believe there's anything required to enter South Africa, which changes all the time, but it is recommended that you talk to your doctor or the travel health clinic, and they can advise the most up-to-date vaccines that are recommended or required to enter. Some of the vaccines that are recommended are malaria, yellow fever, typhoid, things like that. But again, I would speak with your doctor or the travel health clinic just to get confirmation on what you need for that. Someone else asked about vaccines, and is it safe for a single woman to go?
Do you want me to take that one? Or
Yeah, if you.
um I would say yes, it is. In fact, when we went last in 2023, I had probably at least a few single women. What I find on tours is people just make friends with each other so quickly that you're almost never alone unless you want to be. So I would say yes, but I would still, reinforce when you're in the cities, just make sure that you are, always walking with someone. But it just seems to happen very seamlessly. People just make friends and make plans with each other. So I would say, yeah, it's completely fine to do that to come as a single traveler, most definitely.
And just to add to that, all of our tours, we welcome single travelers and often have several single travelers on our tours. And Coral can attest to it. Um, you make friends so easily. You all become a family, especially with such a small group traveling to Africa. It's just you become a family. Lots of times people end up traveling together again after our tours because they've met and just you know become friends and traveling companions. So it's a really great way to travel and be in the safety of a group. So you don't need to worry about finding your own way places. You're together with our guide and with local guides and just staying with our groups. So Teresa also asked how many are in the group. So for this tour, there will be about 20 to 22 passengers. Okay. If there's any other questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, we will wrap up for the evening. And if you do have questions that you think of tonight or tomorrow, please feel free to email us inquiries@westworldtours.com or give us a call or contact your travel agent. They will be able to answer some of the questions for you. And just a big thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate you taking the time in this cold, blustery evening. And we hope that you're as excited as we are for this African adventure. And so, as I mentioned, if you have any questions or think of anything, just send us an email, inquiries@westworldtours.com, or you can give us a call, 877-522-8687, or contact your local travel agent, and we'd all be happy to answer any questions or help with a booking or more details about the tour. And just a big thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully traveling with you soon. So thank you, Coral, for taking the time this evening to
Um,
share all about this adventure.
It's a pleasure. And again, for myself too, thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. It's really lovely to have you here with us. And I wish you all a wonderful Christmas season as well. And thank
Yes,
you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Mhm.
Take care. Thank you.